Welcome to Make Something Happen 54, Deploy Tiny Survey on Azure. Now, we're going to take the Tiny Survey application and deploy it into the cloud for use by anybody in the world. Now, we have already deployed an application into the cloud once. We took Cheese Finder at the end of chapter 6 in Make Something Happen 28. We took the Cheese Finder application and we deployed that into the cloud, and the process for deployment that we're going to follow is exactly the same. So take a look at Make Something Happen 28 for the deployment process, because you can follow that through from there and it will work in exactly the same way. But there is a wrinkle to this. There's a slight complication for our Tiny Survey app. It uses a database to store the survey information, and that has been stored in a MongoDB database running on our local PC, because we've been developing the code and testing it, and it's been running locally. Now we want to use a cloud database this time. We want to put our data in the cloud so our application can use that to then actually do the survey management. And to do that, we have to have a database, and to do that, we have to get one somewhere, and free is my favorite price. If you go on to mongodb.com/basics create-database, the link is in the book as well. You'll find there is a link you can click which says create a free database now, and you can click that, and then it will take you to the page I've been showing you for the last few seconds, which will allow you to sign up with a username and a password and an email address. Create yourself an account, and then you can have one free database. Now I've done that, and if you follow the process through, you have to go through the authentication and whatnot. You'll finally end up at a page that looks like this. Now this is the sort of dashboard, if you like. I've logged in as Rob. There I am here. There I am at the top, and I'm running one database on cluster 0, which sounds fantastic, and it's on the free tier. If I want to make some more, they will cost me money. It isn't hugely expensive, and hopefully if you've got a database out there, you're getting people paying to use it, which would be a nice way to work. And so here I've got my database. I can create a new one if I like, but that will cost me money, so I'm not going to do that. What I want to do though is take a little look at how we connect to it. This is in the cloud at the moment. If I hit the connect button, it says, how do you want to connect? Well, I could connect using a command line shell program. I could connect using Compass, the application we used to look at the local database in a previous Make Something Happen, or I could connect my application. That's the one I want, because what I'm really after is this magical string, because that's the string that connects me to the database. When we run the program locally, we have this .env file which contains a database entry which is mapping to the local version on my machine. This will map to the database in the cloud. If I hit the include free full driver example, you can see there's some JavaScript that you can use to make the connection. The thing you're really after is the URI, which is this piece of text here. So what you would do is, to do this, you follow the process I've described. Create yourself an Atlas account on MongoDB, and then get yourself a free database. Make a careful note of the database URL and also of this part here, which is the password. Now when you make yours and put it in your application, that'll be a long meaningless string of text, which is actually your unique ID. That is secret, because if you give somebody that, they have access to your database. They can look at the data and generally fiddle around with it. So that is a secret you want to keep. So that needs to be managed very carefully. And we'll talk about what you do with that in a minute or two. But write that down or copy it into a file somewhere on your machine, or put it into if you use things like LastPass or 1Password, they always have places you can put notes about information about connections to things. So put it in there somewhere safe, because that is how you're going to actually get hold of your database. And so we can now do that, and we can go back to Visual Studio Code and take a look at the application itself as deployed. So now the situation is that I've got my database connection string, and I followed the process in Make Something Happen 28 to get my application in the cloud, and I now have this. And what this is the Tiny Survey app running as one of my app services, and it's sitting there, and this is the point at which the environment variables come into play, because you have to make one at this point. and it's called database URL. And if I right click on here, I can say add new setting, and I can type in the name of it, which I'd just make a setting called Fred, no idea why, and I can give it the value. This is the value. I can't spell value of Fred. I can't spell. Why am I worrying so much about this? Anyway, never mind. For Fred. Okay, so now I've got a new environment variable in my application, which is totally useless, but it shows you the process you go through to make yours, because you'll call it database URL and you put that long meaningless string in as the password, and then everything else will then get picked up when the application runs. So yes, we can take a look. We can take a look at what's in Fred, and I can click this button here to have a look. This is the value of Fred, but I won't click on this one because I don't want to show the world the password that lets you into the database for my tiny survey. So, but you follow that process, and at this point, only at this point, when that database URL has been filled in, do you deploy the application. Now, the last thing we did in Make Something Happen 28 was actually deploy the app, deploy our cheese finding game. In this one, don't deploy it in the final step. Go back and then deploy it. The instructions are in the book. They do make kind of good sense, and they have been tested out and do work, because that's how I did the first one. And so once you've done that, you will have your application configured in the cloud. And because of the way the binding works, the actual environment information is picked up correctly and plugged into your code. And so it all just comes out in the wash. And at the end of the day, you can go online and get to Tiny Survey and try and do it. Now, I got there first in that I actually have got Tiny Survey, and then we go dot, or is it slash? Oh no, it's dot. Azure websites.net, which is where the Azure stuff ends up being hosted. So if I hit this, it should take me to my survey app. There you go. Now this is running in the cloud, and I can look for Rob's Pizza and see if anybody's any voting. No, let's have a look. I can vote for one, and let's see. Oh, I got 4 pepperoni. That's been fairly quiet, but this is now actually running in the cloud. And so we now have an application using a database that we've created and tied together with this environment variable, and the two are talking, and it is working, and I am happy. So good luck with that. Take it steady. Be very careful when copying the strings and the passwords across, and make sure that your database connection string is A, kept nice and secret, and B, typed in properly, and you'll be fine. Thank you so much.